It's day 13 of the Advent calendar, my friends. Yesterday we talked about Psi operative skills, Traitors and Outsiders, part 2, and Psi operative synergies. Today we'll talk about multiclassing, civilians and scanners.
The time has come to reclaim our world. Welcome back, Commander.
Incoming transmission.
Day 13, strategy, multiclassing. So when I say multiclassing, what I mean is that your troops can pick up cross-class skills. This is rare, and we're not sure if all skills are eligible, but certainly quite a few are. And searching through Reddit, I found a short list of a couple skills that some classes picked up that were from other classes. For example, Phantom on someone's Grenadier. So the Grenadier would remain stealthed even after the rest of the troops were revealed. So Phantom I would take on anyone. That's pretty awesome. Blast padding on a sharpshooter. Kill zone on a specialist and a ranger. Covering fire on a sharpshooter. Hunker aim on a ranger. Shadow step on something else. And finally, I suspect that salvo is one of the skills, since it's a grenadier skill, but it says launch or throw grenades, which is something grenadiers will never do, is throw grenades. So I'm going to assume that salvo can actually be picked up by other soldiers. And it might be that any skill is eligible. Maybe. Anyway, I think the idea that characters might randomly develop, and this is apparently when they level up, there's a chance that they will pick up a cross-class skill. I think this is awesome because you're going to have some characters that are actually unique in their build loadouts. And since you can retrain your choices, if you get a cross-class skill that makes some new build synergy possible for you, you can completely rejigger your perk choices around this new cross-class skill. For example, a really powerful Overwatch synergy on a sharpshooter or grenadier might be nice. I imagine covering fire mixed with kill zone on a sharpshooter would be insanely nice, as that means that everything in the zone that does anything at all that you see, you will get an attack against, whether they move out of cover or not. If you could get suppression on classes besides the Grenadier, that would be amazing. And blast padding on your Ranger, that extra point of armor is probably pretty nice. So it's not reliable, but if a special perk does pop up on someone, strongly consider how that might interact with the standard perks they get. And consider that new builds may actually be possible based on these random perks. Also, of course, you're going to guard that character a lot, and when they die, it's going to be really, really sad. But I encourage you to continue on without them. That is it for multiclassing potential.
Incoming transmission.
Day 13, tactics, civilians, and scanners. So from what we've seen, civilians are going to be present on a lot of the maps, and there's not too much you can do with civilians. For one, you can reveal yourself if you're going through concealment mode, because civilians do basically think of the Advent and aliens as, the good guys. Two, they could be hiding faceless, which is bad. I'm starting to suspect that if the dark event that spreads faceless among the civilians isn't active. Faceless generally won't be found in civilian pods, but that's something to find and test at your own risk. There's probably penalties for killing civilians. That would be my guess. And there could even be penalties for letting civilians die. Probably this is true in the retaliation missions, where the Advent come and wreck your shit. But it's possible that this could be true in any mission that has civilians. For example, if you let a chrysalid pod run wild in a city, and it tears up all the civilians, you might actually face a consequence for that. Besides having a swarm of chrysalids descend upon you at some point. So what to do with civilians? Well, I would expect to attempt to avoid them at all costs until you are in a safe area. If you're not sure if there are faceless in them or not, I would definitely avoid them. Any civilians that start walking towards you, I would definitely back up until you were out of combat. And once you're safe, you might consider trying to taunt a faceless out of the group. Save yourself a move so you can get away from it, and then burn it down in isolation before trying to deal with anything else. The one thing you don't want to do is mess with a group of civilians that could have a potential like beastly monster hiding in it while fighting another pod. When they're around, you're going to be careful with your explosives use, lest you face whatever penalties they are for killing them. And of course, enemies that create psi zombies can use civilians just as easily as any other corpse. So, scanners. Scanners are going to be your primary counter play equipment. Battle scanners, what they do is they're grenades that you throw to an area, and they reveal about as much vision as a soldier can reveal on their own, centered on wherever they land. For I believe it was 2 turns in Enemy Unknown, and I would expect it to be about that long. So they'll reveal for the turn you threw them, the whole next turn, and then their vision should die out at the beginning of the 3rd turn. What they can do is they don't activate pods, but they can reveal unactivated pods. I'm sure they will reveal buried chrysalids, because chrysalids can now bury themselves in the earth, like traps. They will reveal faceless, that's been confirmed, that are hiding as civilians. And they'll probably reveal cloaked enemies like they did back in XCOM, Enemy Unknown, Enemy Within. Now, we haven't heard tale of any cloaking enemies yet, but you can expect there to be some on Firax's list of things that can kill you. Battle scanners also have, besides just pure counterplay, their ability to provide vision is really nice, especially on packed, highly aggressive maps, probably the retaliation maps in particular. You're going to want that extra vision to ensure that you know when other enemies are rolling up on you, or when to back off, or when you can advance safely and try and crush a pod by getting close to it and overwhelming them. So it can be very difficult to find a place in your soldiers' pockets for battle scanners, but I highly suggest you play around with bringing at least one battle scanner per mission and using it, because battle scanners eventually, I found, as my experience with the game increased, that battle scanners became essential to playing at the highest level of difficulty and skill that I was able to. So battle scanners, I think, can be really, really powerful once you know exactly what to use them or how to use them, and that just kind of takes practice. So I would take battle scanners. You want to use them either at the beginning or end of a fight, or in the middle if you want to extend your squad sight range without advancing soldiers forward. And I would just practice using them early and late in fights to try and keep yourself safe, or at least to keep your knowledge of the whole battleground constant.
Incoming transmission.
Day 13, Disposition, Marching Order. So when you're advancing through the map and there are no aliens revealed, I tend to keep a fairly predictable marching order in order to react appropriately. For one, I always keep my units in cover. This was more necessary when I enabled itchy trigger tentacles, which is one of the second wave options from Enemy Unknown. And this lets, or maybe it was Enemy Within, this lets some enemies fire immediately when revealed so that they wouldn't just go for cover. And when you're facing enemy fire unexpectedly during your own turn, like it's kind of like bumbling into a pod that was already on Overwatch. Always moving to cover becomes much more necessary. So I always move to cover, and I generally only take one move unless I know it is safe to dash. And knowing it's safe to dash pretty much means that either another character has already moved in the exact same place you have, or that there's like a full wall of heavy cover that you can't see through and enemies can't see through. Otherwise, I just take a single move and overwatch my whole squad. I would suggest having, for a 4-person squad, having your ranger out to the front on either the left or the right, or right up against one of those heavy walls, completely blocking his vision. Your grenadier and your specialist should be kind of the center pivot point of your squad, and wherever they set up the best, the rest of the squad should kind of position themselves around that. So the ranger more forward towards danger, the sharpshooter, if they're a gunslinger, maybe central or forward if you're being really aggressive because you're concealed or you're just aggressive, feeling aggressive, or more to the rear, or even way back if they are a pure sniper build and nested in some distant high location that gives them good line of sight across the whole map. So your Psi operative, I would suggest rear, maybe center. It depends on what tricks they know and what they are good at, really where they should be positioned. But generally, I think their utility powers are strongest, so I would have them kind of in the middle of the squad, if not a bit back, to keep them extra safe. So once again, that's Ranger out in front, probably off to one side, especially if concealed. Grenadier, Specialist, maybe Psyop in the center. Sharpshooter hanging back unless you're going for a really aggressive gunslinger heavy attack. All right, friends, that's it for day 13. If you enjoyed this content, please go ahead and like this video. If you'd like to see the next Advent Calendar video as soon as it comes out, please subscribe to my channel. Tomorrow, we'll be talking about specialist skills, restoratives, and specialist tactics and builds.